In this video, we are going to be talking about factors in R. And factors are just categorical variables. It's just what R calls them. But they can and will make your life so much harder. So this video is going to show you how to handle factors in a couple of different ways, whether they're coded numerically in your data or that you need to reorder them a certain way. I'm going to show you how to do that using base R methods and also using the Forcats package. Let's start by loading in our packages. We are, as always, going to be using the tidyverse today. And we're going to be looking at the Palmer penguins data set. It's just called penguins. Take a look at what it looks like. Yeah, so we just have data on different penguins, their species, a bunch of different things. Honestly, today we're pretty much just going to be talking about the penguin species. And we can see in the table that it is a factor, so that means it's a categorical variable. We can also use the str function, which I believe stands for structure. Whoops. And look at it there. So we can see that species is a factor with 3 levels. There is Adelie, Chinstrap, and Gentoo is not here. And under the hood, R is actually coding them as numbers. So they're 1, 2, or 3. But R then knows how to decode those back to their original character strings. If you want to see specifically the levels of the covariate of interest, we can call penguins, use $sign to extract just that one variable, species, and we can see there are 3 levels here. If you are looking at these, and it is no coincidence that these are alphabetically ordered. By default, R is going to assume some sort of ordering for the variables, regardless of if they are actually ordered or not. For something like species, the ordering doesn't really matter, but here it is alphabetical. If we had something like a level of education, it might make sense to actually order them from lowest to highest and not alphabetically. And we will see in a little bit why we may want to re-level these. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about prepping our data. So oftentimes we actually have categorical variables that are coded in the data as numbers. So I'm just going to put a little bit of code on the screen where I'm just going to rename each of these different species and assign them to numbers. But let's look at the structure of this new data set when I do so. So I have only 3 numbers in my data set, but R doesn't know that it's a factor. It's going to say, well, I see numbers, so it's numeric. Species is numeric. R is going to think that we can have species as any number between, well, any number at all. It could be 1.5, it could be 3.22222, it could be 100. R doesn't have the context that we do when we're coding. So we need to specifically tell R, okay, this is actually a categorical variable. What we can do is use our handy dandy mutate dplyr knowledge, and we can just say, well, it's the same, but let's make it a factor. So we're saying, let's make a new variable called species, and it's just species as a factor, which means categorical. And because this is named the same as an existing column name, it's just going to overwrite it. So now when we look at the penguins data, that numerical one, now we see it's a factor with 3 levels. And again, by default, it's going to order them numerically. So 1, 2, and 3. So just be aware, be mindful that when you're reading data into R, it doesn't have the context that you do to know what's a factor and what isn't, unless it's just written as a word in the data. Then it's going to automatically assume that yes, it is a factor. Okay, let's go back to that original penguins data set where the species are characters, character strings. So species is a factor with 3 levels, Adelie, Chinstrap, and Gentoo, and right now they are ordered alphabetically. We can manually reorder these. So let's make a new data set called penguins 3. And we're going to use the mutate function again. So let's overwrite species. And all I'm going to do is specify a new ordering. So I'm going to say it's ordered. It's the exact same as it was before, species. But I'm going to specify the order that I want in this level argument. So here I want it to be Gen 2, then Chinstrap, then Adelie. So now it's an ordered factor with 3 levels, Gen 2 and then Chinstrap, and then it gets cut off, but it's Adelie. If I were to plot this, I'm going to use a ggplot call to make a bar chart. And I'm just cleaning up sort of the text here. On the original penguins data set, I have them ordered alphabetically. But on that new data set that I just made, penguins 3, the ordering changes. I don't know why the color also changes. I'm assuming because it's an ordered factor or something, but just ignore that for now. Just know that the levels that I specified here, the order remains the same. Now, what if we want it to be a little bit more flexible and order by, for example, the frequency? It may be useful to viewers to more quickly identify which penguin has the most or least in the species by ordering them from smallest to largest. Pretty easy when you have 3, I could just say, okay, Chinstrap, Gen 2, and then Adelie. But imagine if I had 100 different levels of something. I don't want to be manually doing that. So we can actually use the Forcats package to reorder these levels in a more organic way. Let's first reorder the factor levels according to their frequency. So I want the one with the most penguins to show up first. Well, let's call this penguins 4. And I'm going to again use my dplyr knowledge here. So I'm going to mutate. And I'm just going to overwrite species. So I'm going to say, well, let's use the fct_infreq function. That's from the Forcats package. And that function is just going to reorder all of the species within that column according to its frequency. So now if I were to plot penguins 4, I can see that it's from most penguins to least penguins. And I just want to show you, because we might want to use a couple of steps here, I can actually continue to pipe. So I can say, instead of just calling fct_infreq on species, I can pipe it again. And I get the exact same plot. The reason why I'm showing you this is because there's another function that I may want to use, and that's fct_rev. So that's going to reverse the ordering. So now it's from smallest to largest. And piping allows us to do this in a more organic way. I can also do this reordering directly within ggplot, so I don't need to make these intermediate data frames. So I'm just going to copy, let's just say, and I'm just going to do this on the penguins data set. I'm not going to make anything kind of intermediate. So I'm going to take penguins, and then I'm going to do the mutation there. So I'm going to mutate species equals, well, take the original species, and I'm going to pipe it into fct_infreq and continue that chain, and I'm going to reverse the levels. Then I'm going to pipe that data set into ggplot. So all I had to do there was remove the data call into ggplot, and I should be able to run this, and I get the exact same chart. So just for absolute clarity, when I rerun this, I get the exact same plot, and I'm calling it on penguins. I didn't need to make a data set intermediately at all. I'm not actually saving anything. So super useful if you don't want to store a bunch of data sets, especially if they're large. Let's take this one step further. So assume that we have some other species that we want to visualize, but they're not actually there. So let's visualize the missing species. What we can do is use fct_expand. Again, this is in the Forcats package, and I'm going to call king and emperor, and then continue that kind of chain of commands. So I'm telling R, okay, I know you only see Chinstrap, Gen 2, and Adelie in my data set, but technically king and emperor, I think I spelled that wrong. King and emperor also exist, but I just didn't collect any data, but I still want you to consider them. There's one more thing we have to add to ggplot, and that's just to tell ggplot, okay, I have some levels that have no data, but I don't want you to drop them. In ggplot, that's the scale underscore x underscore discrete function, and I'm just gonna put drop equals false. So I'm gonna say don't drop missing levels. So here, add some missing levels, order by frequency, reverse ordering, so go from smallest to largest. Okay, let's try running this and see what happens. Now I actually visualize that there are no emperor and there are no king penguins, but I'm still including them in the visualization, which can be very useful. So factors can kind of trip you up when you're coding in R, but I hope that the Forcats package will give you some added confidence and some tools to navigate factors when you are coding. Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. I just realized that my webcam is covering the visualization, so I'm just gonna hide myself. And now you should be able to see the plot a little bit better. I am so sorry. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.